I don't think I need to introduce Harsha. Most of the people know Harsha. So he's the CEO and founder of Microimage, as well as Rudy started another startup called Mr. Mobile, and he's also the founder and CEO.
I want to ask you a question. How many of you are born mobile? Huh? How many of you are born mobile? Huh? It's nothing to do with age. Okay, so before I talk about more mobile generation and the enterprise IT challenges, I will go back in time a little bit. So I'll go 10 years down the line and let's explore what the mobility world looked like. So it was pretty much a feature phone era, I think. Most of you have been at that time and you have explored all these feature phones. Well, there was few smartphones as well. I happen to use some of these phones. It's a very interesting era because it's a time the entire landscape was highly fragmented, extremely fragmented. So if I share the sort of ecosystem, it was a very, very painful ecosystem for developers. People who have built mobile apps 10 years ago and tried to make money out of it will know what I'm talking about, if you have done that. So at that time, if I share how it looked like, you had the developers, you had phones, all kinds of feature phones, you have mobile users, as well as mobile operators. So if you want to pretty much push an app or application that you develop, most of the stuff were built using technologies like J2Me, Guru, and things like that. You have to be in the mercy of the mobile operator. Mobile operator likes you very much. You are lucky and you can get your app pushed through. That's the kind of era. And building an app which will work across pretty much all the platforms or all the Nokias and different form factors was a nightmare. It's quite a challenging time. And if you look at the enterprise side of it, it's an enormous challenge. Very difficult to deliver serious enterprise applications. So I'm taking the enterprise scenario at that time. Now you saw how the feature phone scenario looked like. If you look at the typical enterprise 10 years ago, you had something like this. You had your legacy systems, you had your HR systems, ERPs, email, all kind of backend systems. Now, some of the progressive CIOs started looking at offering mobility to some of their key executives. And there was this company with a very interesting phone who was capitalizing on that niche need. All of you know this BlackBerry. So BlackBerry became the hero of enterprise 10 years ago. Every CEO, CIO wanted to give a BlackBerry to their key executives, mainly to be productive on the go by accessing email on the go all that. Then BlackBerry saw this as a huge opportunity and they started storming all the enterprises. Then they got into different challenges because different enterprises use different kind of backend email systems. Those days it's called group where you had Exchange, Lotus Notes, things like that. So to solve the problem in the middle, they came up with BlackBerry Enterprise Server. And it allows you to connect to various dissimilar email systems from Lotus Notes to Exchange Server. So it was a perfect world enterprises loved it. Everybody loved their BlackBerry. But there was on the other side, there was a problem. Enterprises or the companies have to spend enormous amount of money on these devices because they have to purchase and give these devices to all the employees. Now, this was a perfect fit and perfect times for BlackBerry, and they made lots of money due to this opportunity. Because there wasn't a single player, even though there was Nokia and Sony Ericsson in a big way at that time, even Motorola, they never been able to reach that enterprise market segment because of this whole ecosystem that they have kind of built, the middleware and the kind of phones they have built, pretty much engineered to the enterprise because they have the highest security from that top layer all the way to the bottom layer. So now what happened? In 2007, this whole world of mobility got disrupted by this man with his company and this particular phone. Actually, it's a game-changing point in history of mobile computing. I don't know, various people, if there are people from Nokia in this room, they will disagree and start arguing with me. Whenever I tell this, people get really angry and all that, but that's a fact. That's a fact. The reason is, for the first time, it's not the phone that Apple invented what mattered. The whole ecosystem. They broke this cartel kind of system that was existing, where the developers has to be in the mercy of mobile operators all the time when they wanted to publish their application and distribute their application. This was completely broken by Apple. You know what it is, right? You can, with the Apple's ecosystem, you can directly publish an app and make money. You don't need to go and talk and go through hierarchical mobile operator and be on their mercy and get a 70-30 in their favor. That was 10 years ago. Usually mobile operator keeps 70% and any people from mobile companies? No, right? One. Okay. So 70% they keep and 30% gives to developer. It was reversed completely. So now 70% is given to the developers and 30% they kept. So it was a big game-changing moment in the mobile industry. I remember when I was in Barcelona for GSMA in 2008, entire GSMA community was very angry with this man because he didn't follow some of the standards and all kind of jargon that needs to be followed in the mobility world. What he wanted, and they were like, I still remember there was this senior executive at GSMA. He was like talking to Steve Jobs in a bit of filth as well, saying that I don't know what the hell this guy doing. Then other Nokia was laughing at this company at that event because I was sitting in a forum and Nokia was laughing. Oh, okay, iPhone. So how many phones they will sell? Because they just launched the phone at that time. They have yet to get the traction. So Nokia was selling millions of phones. And there was a joke somebody has told in a previous night dinner. How many phones they have sold within the last week? Oh, like 100,000. Okay, since last week we have sold 100 million. What about that? So that Nokia executive has told. So, but you know the story now. So I'm not going to go there. So it was a disrupting moment. However, there was a problem. The problem was Apple was always an issue. It was like having a BMW car. Only few people could afford to buy an iPhone and have the luxury of having a credit card and registering with iTunes and buying apps and the whole works. So the next big disruptor came. So it was first Apple, then the next disruptor came, which probably almost all of you love, the Android. So Google did pretty much the same thing what Apple did, created the same ecosystem, but they made it open, pretty much open source, So everybody who wanted to compete with Apple and get into that game just followed Android path. People who did the foolish mistake of not following that path are suffering from those respective consequences, including some of those giants. I don't want to mention the names. If they follow those paths, companies like Samsung will never be in this position today. That's the reality. Because that company, which, I mean, there's no Nokia people right here, so I will be very open about it. So, if Nokia went with Android, Nokia would have been in Samsung's position. Clearly in their Samsung's position. Because Nokia is a great company, they build great phones, they're a great hardware company, but they were arrogant. Because they were the largest company in the world in the mobility space. Who the hell Apple and who the hell Google teach us mobile? Why should we? Because we have our Migos, we have our Symbians, and so they were arrogant. Finally, they have to suck up to another big company for their future survival. So with these disruptions, what happened was it was a complete birth of a new generation. It's a new mobile generation was born. Yes, people used mobile phones before, but not like this before. So people who used to use a phone just for mere phone calls, text messaging, email, and browsing now got exposed to this wonderful world of apps. Now today there's an app for everything, anything pretty much. You know that. You must be having loads of apps with your phone. So if you don't have a smartphone now with you, you have not born mobile, pretty much. So there's one. Okay, two, they are very, very good. So there are still feature phone users, very good. So, so with this, actually what happened was people started making their phone like almost like a life companion. I mean, most of the people, if you see on the roads to go anywhere, to a coffee shop or anything, you will see sometimes people go to a coffee shop to meet, but the first thing they do is order the coffee. Rather than they talk, they just take their phones and start doing, I don't know what, getting connected to social networks and all that. Because by the time they meet, due to the power of mobility and the kind of apps that you are using, you know everything about the other person's life, what's going on, everything. There's nothing, hardly anything to talk when you meet. There's nothing to talk. So I mean, actually this mobile generation is going to get that humans to be sort of disconnected in social connections on a regular basis. So that's bad. So now what happened? Okay, before I get into the enterprise thing, you know, if you don't know, it took 16 long years to pass the billion smartphone mark. So it took 16 years. In 1996, it was Nokia who came up with the so-called smartphone, the first generation sort of smartphone. And 2012, last year, I think, if I'm not mistaken, October, the world passed billion smartphones, and it took 16 years. Now, how long do you think to pass the next billion phones? How long will it take? If you really look at, in today's Sri Lankan market, you can even get a smartphone for less than 10,000 rupees. So I just put, to be safe, on the safe side, 3 years, but it won't take 3 years. It won't take. I won't be surprised if it happens in less than 2 years to reach the next billion smartphones. So all of a sudden, if you look at all these key people around an enterprise, your customers, your partners, employees, suppliers have very powerful compute capability in their pockets now, in their palms now, with this complete. So around an enterprise, you see employees bringing their own devices, suppliers wanting to access some of the information in your enterprise using their tablets and smart devices. Customers like to reach out to the favorite brand using their smartphone. Partners want to connect. All kind of issues comes into the organization. So now there's an interesting development in enterprise. They don't want that BlackBerry anymore. They want to use their coolest, latest Samsung device that they purchased last week. Or they like to use their iPad to access their email and do their email. So now this is becoming a real headache for all the CIOs. Because they are coming and saying, no, your BlackBerry, you can keep it. I love my Samsung Galaxy S4 and I love my iPad 3. Please let me access corporate email using that, otherwise I will not access it at all. Not only that, they are started asking ways access to other things like VPNs, internet access on their smart device. So now this is becoming a major headache to all the CIOs and heads of ITs. Any CIOs here? Any heads of ITs of companies? No. So now this thing is called bring your own device. So all the corporates has to start establishing policies for bring your own device. That is basically, it's first of all, actually, before you allow people to bring device, you have to have a policy. If you bring your device and start connecting to our network, you start using these devices within the network, what are the rights the company has? If you lose the phone with corporate data, what are the rights company has with your personal device? Because it's your personal device. On the other side, it's a great trade-off for all the CIOs and heads of IT. Why? And also the company as a whole, if you look at the management per se. Why it's a trade-off? You don't need to spend any money on BlackBerries anymore. Employees are investing in 100,000 phones, 75,000 phones, 125,000 tablet devices. We don't need to spend a cent. All we need to figure out is how to securely provision these devices. But it's a big challenge. It's a big headache. Because you are accessing corporate assets. So some of the challenges are how to securely provision all these devices. So how to easily enroll and administer employees. And finally, okay, you have your BYOD policy in place, but how can you govern your BYOD policy? How to securely provision, what if somebody loses the phone, what can we do about it, all those things. So the next challenge, the first challenge was with devices, now it's the apps. Okay, now first of all they come and say, okay, we wanted to access our email and browsing, so can you please give us access, so they get access. After a while they go to CIO and say, have you seen this cool app? Why can't you provide the CRM data like in an app like this, where I don't need to get a printout or use my desktop to access that information. On the go, when I'm talking to my client, I like to access all that information on my iPad. Why can't you give that? Another pain point comes to the CIO. So not only the field force guy, every department start now demanding for different kind of applications. On the other side, organizations also sees a huge potential to reach their brand out, get closer to the customer, allow suppliers and partners to do business with great efficiencies, and also by providing those vital information to employees on demand on their device of their choice. It increases the productivity of your staff. Imagine while you are waiting for a doctor's appointment, you can do some work. Previously you couldn't do it because you have to come to your office, log into the desktop and do that work. Imagine you wanted to clear some opportunities that you were following up on your CRM system. You can log in from your mobile device and now do the status updates while you are waiting for a doctor's appointment, especially in Sri Lanka, it really helps. You know how it's like to wait for a doctor's appointment in Sri Lanka. So you end up to get an appointment at 7 o'clock. Most likely the doctor will come around 7:30. By the time you get to your appointment, it will be 8. So you have a good 1 hour of productive work that you can do probably if you have that mobility access. So, but there are a number of challenges. The first challenge is how to publish and manage and distribute all these apps. How to provide apps from public stores. Now, employee doesn't only want internally developed apps. They want some of the apps to be used in the corporate environment which are downloaded from public app stores. For example, they might say, I like this Evernote application. I want to use it for my corporate. Take notes and stuff like that. And also, how to support native, hybrid and web apps, different kind of apps, which I will get into the hybrid and all those stuff later. But for the moment, just imagine, I think some people must be knowing what a hybrid app is. There are different kind of apps. You have always platform-specific native apps, web apps, and hybrid apps. And also, most of the organization has a tough situation when it comes to iOS apps. They don't know how to distribute iOS apps, how to build and distribute iOS apps within the enterprise environment, and how to distribute apps from the Apple Store through your private enterprise store, and also how to provision mobile apps for diverse user groups. So these are some of the challenges behind apps and apps distribution. So the next challenge is now these people coming and asking for different kind of apps. Now, how to build these apps? How to build these apps? This is not as easy as building an app for the consumer market, because there's a lot of other protocols to be followed. There are lots of other complexities that you need to deal with. So you are talking about building apps for your employees, you are talking about building apps for your suppliers, partners, and also to reach out to customers and take your brand out there and give them a better service experience, apps for even customers. But when you try to build apps, there are a whole heap of challenges that you need to overcome. First of all, you saw the diversity of that backends that I shown you earlier. How to connect to all these diverse backend systems, and how to easily access relevant APIs. If you look at some of the organizations, they have even not thought about exposing APIs. Without APIs, there's no mobile apps, pretty much. You can't really write mobile apps if you don't have a nicely laid out API, if you have not published your API. And how to build an app to run across multiple platforms. Now, when it comes to enterprises, it's all about cost. For example, if they have to develop a CRM app, and now this BYOD, some people will have the coolest latest Windows mobile phone, Nokia something like 920, another sales guy will have a Samsung Galaxy S4, another one will have iPhone 5, so, and a BlackBerry Z10, another person, so you can't be writing applications, the same CRM application for different user groups, hiring a BlackBerry competent company to build the BlackBerry app, iOS capable company to build. You can't do that. It's costly for a company. You should be able to build one piece of code which will run across all these platforms. Finally, how to once you start building lots of apps, how to seamlessly manage the app development process and finally publish it into your private store and distribute it. Because it's meaningless to publish your application in a public store. For example, if it is like, we'll say WSO2 build an app to access WSO2 sales information. Does it make sense to put this application in Apple's iTunes store or Android store? It doesn't make sense, because it's relevant to only these people. So you have to distribute it through your private channel. So if I summarize, So today's enterprise are facing these challenges. First challenge is due to proliferation of devices. Next challenge is around distribution of apps. And the third challenge is around building the apps. Now, today's enterprise can't take, of course, now if you look at today's enterprise, they have lots of things to deal with. There are lots of buzzwords around. Enterprise integration, big data, social, cloud is a big thing, and mobile. But enterprises, I'm a bit biased here, but enterprises has to put mobile as priority more than anything else. Because the evolution of mobile is very, very fast. And you know how it is going to hit to an organization. The organizations has to start thinking around a mobile first strategy. So when I say mobile first strategy, what it means is everything you plan for the future has to have to think through a mobility world, through a mobility terms, in terms of your business processes, how you are provisioning your APIs, how you will allow dissimilar systems to talk to each other, how you will allow applications, mobile applications to access various package systems. So you have to put a mobile first strategy. People who fail to do that will get into so many nightmares and finally have to deal with hiring lots of consultants unnecessarily who will come and give some advice and make a lot of money out of it if they don't realize what they need to do. So, compared from 10 years ago, which was a pretty much a BlackBerry dominated world, I would rather say a BlackBerry dominated enterprise. Today the landscape has completely changed. Instead of course BlackBerry still exists, but you have other key players. If you look at these 4 platforms, they pretty much dominate 95% of the smartphone market today. Out of which Android and Apple shares 90% of it. And Windows Mobile and BlackBerry shares about 5%. And there will be more people coming and joining this smartphone game. At the last Barcelona conference, I saw Ubuntu trying to get into this space. But when I asked how you are going to get in, they have done a nice product, but they don't have a clue about how to sell the product, how to put it to a phone. They say it's free, you can put it and burn it to your device and then you have Ubuntu on it. World doesn't work like that way. Do you think enterprises will to ask their employees to download Ubuntu and install? It doesn't work. Some of the geeks will do that, but not the enterprise world. And there's Tizen and there was Firefox. And Firefox was very impressive. I saw a Firefox phone, Firefox demo. And Firefox whole idea is to introduce a $50–60 smartphone, and they want to reach the next billion phones in the emerging markets. They say there's an opportunity there. Then I said, of course, Android is already there selling $50–60 phones. They said, but it's very heavy. So I had a bit of an argument with this person, but they say the future is web apps. You can't predict things like this, unfortunately, in the mobility world. Nobody predicted somebody like Steve Jobs with a company like Apple will come and disrupt the whole world. Nobody imagined. So you can't just have, in the mobility world, there is no one size fit for all kind of thing. There is no such a thing. If somebody is saying that, it's pretty much bullshit or laughing. It doesn't make sense. So you have that stays on top. You have your enterprise systems. If you notice, there's one more thing which has been added apart from your ERP, supply chain, legacy systems. Now you have cloud. Today, most of the enterprises make use of cloud applications. Lots of them. The companies that I work and I do business and all those stuff, including WSO2, build lots of number of cloud applications. Now, if you look at the middle tier, there are a number of questions. How to manage apps across different user groups. How to connect to diverse backend systems, including cloud. Previously it was only the backend system, now you have even cloud, which is not in your own premise. It could be in your private own on-premise cloud, it could be a public cloud. How to manage the diversity of devices. People are bringing all kinds of devices, how to manage that. And finally, how to build mobile apps to suit all these devices. So, these are the big question marks and challenges for the enterprise today. Now, to solve this, there are number of solutions that you need to build. So, okay, I forgot about this picture. Now, this is a typical scenario for a CIO today. All these devices, apps, complexity of backend systems, and he was not ready. He was thinking through implementing a very complicated ERP, which takes his 90% of his time, because ERP implementations are so painful. I don't know why people even in a modern day like this today implement ERPs. It's just killing time. It doesn't make sense at all. There are better ways of putting applications, deploying applications, and integrating and getting better agile business results. So in a era like this, my God, it's an integration nightmare. How so many things to think through. Now this, actually I'm not bluffing, I saw this firsthand last night. Last night we had a very interesting CXO forum organized by WSO2, organized a CXO forum to showcase some of the WSO2 technologies to some of the leading CIOs of this country. And this is the kind of thing they saw. I mean, like, oh, all these things are there, and what are we doing about it? Because we are busy implementing our own ERPs and all kind of stuff. Now, the solution is basically you have to have an enterprise mobile platform to solve these problems. All these diverse challenges which I shared can be solved using an enterprise mobility platform. Now, what are the components of this enterprise mobile platform? You have to have solutions for these to solve these problems. The first one, there should be a solution for device management, managing devices, and governing the BYOD policy that you implement. You need to have a solution. Next one, app distribution. There should be a solution for enterprise app distribution. Third one, there should be a solution for application development, because it's quite different and much more challenging compared to the consumer world. So let's start with mobile device management. What does mobile device management mean? So basically a good mobile device management software or a solution which will help basically in an enterprise to manage corporate code, employee code, and shared devices. First of all, you will, if you have a BYOD policy in place, now with this solution in place, you can allow all kinds of phones to come in. Some of the phones could be their own phones, some of the phones could be the phones given by the enterprise. And it should support all the key smartphone platforms. At least the 4 key platforms which exist today. And it should have integration to your identity system. You log into your Active Directory or LDAP, it should have that integration. Role-based provisioning. Provisioning various governance commands for different roles. You need to have that. And also to provision apps. Now, I will talk about it in the next one. You should be able to provision application to certain user groups easily. if I share some of the interesting stuff that should be there in device governance, imagine now you have your mobile device management installed, set up, configured and running, and all your employees are on it. Now one of your sales staff after work goes for a coffee or a drink. After the drink, he forgets his phone. He leaves the phone in the bar and he goes home. And he has entire company's corporate data on it. Like the financials, this revenue for the last month, revenue for the quarter, some of the important proposals that you have given to some of the big projects, tenders, all are there. So whoever who grabs that phone have now access to all this information, right? But if you have a device management system, no sooner you on the way home, you will all of a sudden for some reason, if you, oh my goodness, my phone is busy. All you have to do is just log into a console and wipe that information out. A good mobile device management software or a solution will basically divide your personal phone space into two, in the sense not physical separation. Logically it will have two components. There will be an area to have your personal stuff, your personal apps, all that, and there will be another container which will have all the enterprise applications. So when you wipe, you will be wiping only the enterprise stuff. But if you want, you can wipe the whole phone as well. And pretty much do so many other things. Like for example, if the organization wants to enforce a policy where these are the kind of apps which are allowed to use for work, you can whitelist and blacklist applications using a good mobile device management solution. There are a host of other features I am not going to run through. Another thing is you need to have self-service provisioning. If you are a large organization which has about 5,000 odd employees, you can't be asking the administrator to provision users one by one. You should have a way of employees themselves downloading and self-enrolling to the device management system. And it should allow complete policy management. You should be able to have different policies for different user groups. This is the policy, device governance policy for the field force staff. This is the device governance policy for all the senior executives. You can have different policies created. And the next one is one of the key interesting things is containerization. Basically, one of the key component in a corporate environment is your email client. Pretty much everybody spends most of the time with emails, right? So the email has to be in a secure container. So that means if somebody steals your phone, even if you have not wiped, you should be able to access the email and check all the email information. Not only that, there are lots of cloud sharing methodologies now. You have Google Drive, Dropbox, and all kinds of SkyDrive. So you should have it securely contained in a separate area. So containerization is a key thing. Now, not only mobile, basically device management software solutions providers are doing this now, hardware manufacturers, even the companies like Samsung, HTC, Nokia has realized the importance of secure containers. If you look at even BlackBerry, in BlackBerry new phone, there's a nice separation called work and play. If you go to the work mode, it's all secure, it's a different space, you have to log in, and it's in a separate area. So that's the perfect way of doing it. So why they have done it? They wanted to establish their position in the corporate. Because they can go and tell the corporate, look, don't buy Samsung, because Samsung doesn't have secure control. So then the company can say, no problem, we have our mobile device management, and mobile device management solution takes care of containerization. So we don't need that bill. Oh really? Okay, give the phone to a good hacker, they will jailbreak and get all the data out. Same goes to iPhone. Oh, now it's a problem. So due to all these challenges, In fact, even companies like Samsung is implementing device level containerization. Anybody have heard about a thing called Knox? Samsung launched a program called Knox, which is basically device level capability to have added level of security in the device. That means you can't jailbreak the phone if you have a Knox system. And so for device management providers, you can make use of the Knox system. Now when Samsung do Knox, HTC will come up with another name. And everybody will do it because if everybody wants to ensure these phones will go into a corporate environment. And also a good device management system should have integration to mobile application management. That means you should be able to provision applications to different user groups. Say for example, you develop this CRM application that users demanded and you want to just push this CRM app only for that particular user group. So you can just do that through a MAM integration. And also finally, analytics reports, who is using, where are they are using, what are their locations. I mean, this is like, this is pretty much scary, so a lot of people will be worried. But if you really want to use your phone in the workplace, you may have to agree to certain BYOD policies. If you don't like it, you can say, no, I will not use it. If you want, you give me a phone, I will use that phone. So, but more and more corporates, more and more employees, because of the ability to get things done easier and because of the productivity factors, they like to comply with BYOD policies. So let's look at the apps scenario. So if you look at today's scenario, you have a lot of public app stores. But now, when you have 1 or 2 apps, you can manage somehow. But when you have 3, 4, 5, 5th app, 6th app, because in future, even within an enterprise, there's going to be proliferation of apps. I mean, this whole heap of apps that the enterprise has to deal with. Not only apps developed internally, but there will be multitude of other apps that they like to distribute, which are purchased from public app stores to their employees. For example, there could be a cool app which will allow to update and have some analytics from a public CRM like Salesforce, which runs on a public cloud. And say this particular large organization or a medium organization use Salesforce, and there's an app which is developed by a third party which will allow to visually see Salesforce data in an intuitive manner, but it costs $1 or $1.99. So instead of asking employees to buy, why should employees buy? It's something to do with companies. So the corporate will do a bulk purchase of that application and will distribute internally through their private store. Right? So a good mobile application management solution should support all the leading platforms. It should allow distribution of paid apps, free apps and internal apps. Other 3 key apps types like native apps, HTML5, JavaScript based web apps, hybrid apps. And also there's an interesting thing by, what's most interesting is even though Android is leading and Android has a very mass market appeal, if you look at most of the corporate CIOs like to deploy stuff on iPads and iPhones, especially in developed countries. That's the case. So there is a thing called Apple Volume Purchase Program, where you can go and buy an Apple application through the Volume Purchase Program. Say that Salesforce CRM app. If you have 1,000 field force staff, let's say 100 field force staff, you can buy 100 copies. You can distribute through your private store. These are the kind of capabilities today a good mobile application management or an enterprise store requires. And it should also allow app lifecycle management like typically in a public store. People who are developers knows how the Android ecosystem works, how you publish an app, how it goes through a review process, how it get rejected, how it get notified, the whole process. Even in the enterprise, there is no difference. You need to have that life cycle management of apps. You should be able to publish, provision, retire, replicate, and provide recommendations, install, update, and recording of apps, ratings and reviews like in a public store, and it should have MDM integration as well if you wanted to distribute an app for a particular user group. And also it should provide good store analytics. For enterprise, it's very, very important to see which user group is consuming what applications at any given time. So let me come to the final part, the building apps. So if you look at the type of apps that you can build today, you can build a native app. You can build an HTML5 app, pretty much called web apps. Or you can build a hybrid apps, combining best of both worlds. Now what do you think the best approach would be for an enterprise? For enterprise, what's the best? Sorry? Hybrid. Native. Okay, there's one that's saying native. Who wants to challenge him? HTML5. Okay. Anybody else? Nobody believes in hybrid. All the way back, somebody is believing hybrid. Okay. So it's interesting. So why do you think native is, if I like to just make it a bit interactive, why do you think it's native is good and why it's good for the enterprise? Security issues. Okay. So web HTML5 is not secure? Okay. Not much. Okay. What do you think? But a hybrid approach, if you have hybrid, you have HTML5 as well as the native capabilities. Okay. So, well, all I have to say is there is no one winner. So, all of you may be right. But if you look at from an enterprise point of view, the way forward is hybrid application development. The simple reason is cost. Mainly the cost. Now, if you follow the native approach, the problem is if you want to deploy a particular CRM applications to all the field force who have diverse this thing, you have to cut a code for a BlackBerry, another one, all that. It's not easy, right? You said HTML5, fantastic technology. You can have one application built run across all these field force stuff. But that field force person, when he visit a particular location, he wants to, after taking the order and all that, he wants to take the picture of the store or something like that. Those kind of capabilities won't be we won't be able to execute those kind of capabilities. And if the head office wants to track where this field force person is, whether he has really reached that location, it will be tough. So if you have a hybrid approach, basically a hybrid approach, you have your HTML5, all your whole business logic is running on that, but in a native container. Therefore, you have access to the camera, the location, all these information. So the Gartner predicts, not me, Gartner predicts by 2016. You know Gartner, right? For people who doesn't know Gartner, Google Gartner. They are the ones who at WSO2 Gartner is very, very famous. We really check our stuff and we really post about stuff through Gartner's analysis, because they have a bunch of researchers. Only thing they do is research various technologies, various shifts in technology, and create reports. So as per them, not as per me, by 2015, 50 to 60% of mobile development will shift to hybrid approach. More and more, there will be only limited amount of native. Native will not go away, because there would be certain extreme application that you need to do, very security intensive, very niche, very specific for certain tasks. You may have to go for native approach. That's why I said in the mobility world, there is no one size fit for all kind of strategy. So everybody is a winner. So I put this slide also. So I mean, if you want the full capability on a single platform, as he said, the security is a concern. Native is sort of, and if you don't want to get the best user experience, UI capabilities, native approach is the best. But if you want best of both worlds, you can go for hybrid. And if you want to have some partial capability but runs across multiple platforms, you can go for HTML5 approach. So depending on the kind of application that you are building, you can pretty much, the CIO or the organization can decide the approach. If it is a very consumer friendly application, doesn't bother about much security, but it should work across all the key platforms, HTML5 would be ideal and to deploy. But if you wanted to get some native capabilities, you can go for hybrid. But if you want to do very specific apps, you may still have to rely on native capabilities. So I pretty much said that. So basically, hybrid is marriage of both worlds. Mobile web apps and native capability marrying together. So some of the development tools who use PhoneGap? Anybody have used PhoneGap? Okay, good. That's interesting. So there are a number of, PhoneGap is the only one in this page now is called Colombo. I mean, like, it's the open source offering which is available, but there are a number of available tools for cross-platform development. Acceleration, Titanium, Sencha, Trigger.io, Stixi, there are so many, and there will be so many more coming into this space. Now, those are development tools, but when you go to an enterprise, you are dealing with so many other challenges. Now, for example, we'll say some of you have been running companies or having your own, working for your own company or some other company, get an RFP from enterprise asking you to build an CRM application or some small application to check the company's inventory. Now, when you wanted to build this application, you will run into so many roadblocks. Now, where should I store my data? Imagine it's running in a cloud. Where should I store? How should I support push notification? Now, this company wants to populate their Facebook posts. How to integrate with social networks? So, when you have all these challenges, there's a way of provisioning all these services, or rather APIs, a bunch of APIs bundled together through a thing called mobile backend as a service. Go and read, it's very interesting. Mobile backend as a service is set of APIs and SDK all put together, which will help you to help your mobile development experience easy. There are lots of public MBAS players, and there are so many people joining this bandwagon because mobility, people know mobility has huge potential. So what an MBAS does is it provides you a completely unified API service. It will provide you identity integration. You need to worry about how to manage users, how to connect to LDAP and AD and all kind of stuff. Data store for your app, push notification support, integrate into cloud services like known cloud services, and integrate into social networks. So the next interesting thing which is emerging around enterprises are a thing called mobile enterprise application platform. A complete integrated set of products and services which are engineered to deliver the capability to deliver mobile apps pretty faster than an organization. So a good MEAP platform will provide the enterprise the capability, because in the mobile apps the difference compared to the enterprise app scenario is you can't be writing a mobile app for like as a 1 year project. You know, if you take enterprise app project, sometimes it's a 1 year. By the time you test then come out to the market, it's like almost 12 months. But in the mobility world, if you do that, by the time you are trying to launch your app, that phone is obsolete and the OS has got a new version update and all kind of stuff. So you have to come up with a rapid application development mechanism. So, and also in an enterprise environment, you need to provide a collaborative app development capability. People will be building very complex applications. It's not like a public application you provide it to typical mass market consumer. It could be pulling data from dissimilar ERP components. So it's not only one person who's writing, cutting the code, it could be like 3-4 people getting together and writing this particular application, especially if it's like a business intelligence application which you pull data from diverse ERP components and diverse systems. And you should have in an enterprise environment to monitor app lifecycle management. There should be integration to APIs. Now I told at the beginning also, enterprises has to seriously start thinking around APIs. If you don't have APIs, this, I don't know, I mean like, there's no way you can build apps. APIs are pretty much the gateway to all the services, all the things that you want to fetch, publish, everything. So API should be a core part of a very solid mobile enterprise application. And it should have integration to the embedded components which I shared earlier. All those common services like push notifications, getting the location, storing your application data, all that. And it should finally have a direct integration, ideally a direct seamless integration to the App Store. Why? If you want, after publishing your app, after say 2 months, you do an update to your app, you should be able to seamlessly update. So you should have the ecosystem nicely integrated. So a good mobile enterprise application platform provides that capability. Finally, to have reporting analytics to monitor what's going on, who's developing what has gone live, what has in the debugging stage, what is the why a particular app is taking so long, so you can get intervene, what are the challenges, and most importantly, when the developers log in to build, let's say that CRM application, they should be running around to figure out where the APIs are. APIs relevant to that CRM should be exposed by the MEAP platform. So all you have to concentrate is building the business logic. All the required backend services, support services, everything is provided by the platform, including the complexity of integration. So if you really look at a typical building blocks within which constitutes a MEAP platform, it has the enterprise embedded mobile backend as a service. It has enterprise integrations like ESPs and API, development tools, and development operation platform, which basically manages the life cycle, all nicely integrated together. So if you have this kind of a scenario in your enterprise, or you utilize through a public cloud service, integrating into your backend and cloud systems, you can quickly build your apps, provision apps, and manage apps, and get rid of all those headaches that you have been going through. But having said that, whoever this particular platform provider needs to continuously do R&D and bring in required capability to ensure that whatever challenges which are forthcoming in the future are addressed. So, if I conclude, in the middle space, in the enterprise world, today if you want to overcome all these challenges, you pretty much need this kind of application. You need to have a good solution for mobile device management. You need to have a good solution for your managing your applications. Access to most important common APIs through a backend as a service, and also a completely integrated set of products and services which constitute an MEAP. Now, there's tremendous. How many of you are developers here? Okay, almost all are pretty much developers. So, how many of you have your own companies? Like, how many of you are working for small companies or having your own companies? 1, 2, 3. So you must be building apps and stuff like that, right? I must tell you, all of you, there's a huge opportunity lies ahead in the enterprise space. If you look at that, market is yet to be opened properly, even in Sri Lanka. Right now, enterprises are just scratching the surface. They have not really gone into build serious applications. So if you're thinking, my gosh, now I started my company, or how to make money out of mobile apps, because it's very, very hard in the consumer space. You will know what I'm talking about. It's not easy to make, unless you have a superb idea and you have a properly implemented revenue model. That also you are lucky to reach, because we still don't have a huge smartphone penetration, and your app should go to all these people. You can't go and put this app in App Store for 99 cents and then thinking that million people will download. Unless you build it for the global market, then you are just one of these over 750,000 odd apps that is there, the discovery challenges, all that. But if you really look at the enterprise space, there will be a tremendous amount of opportunity coming out in the future when enterprises start adopting various platforms and build those integrations to expose their APIs. I know there are certain companies in Sri Lanka, large companies, who have started thinking in that direction and started to establish and build APIs. No sooner that happens, there will be tremendous amount of opportunity, because these companies doesn't have the capability to build apps, and it doesn't make sense for them to do it. They will invite the other software developers to come and build enterprise apps, and you can make a lot of money. So there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in the enterprise application space. So with that note, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much. And